I have a couple of very important points to make on documentation. Today, the product life cycle and the service life cycle is shortening. Earlier, we used to take years to launch a new product and service. Now we take months to launch a new product and service. Now, when the time is so short, why should I not go for a ready solution and go for straight away automation, which I am hoping and assuming, and I am sure pretty much most of the solutions have all the best practices included in the solution itself. Why should I reinvent the wheel and try to define the best practices? Rather, I would have straight away implemented into the solution. My time to market is a very important consideration as per the business requirement is concerned. Documentation will take a very long time. By the time you finish documenting one practice, you realize that the practices now need a change because market has changed, the business scenario has changed. So again, I'm doing a lot of rework. So why should I do a rework? That is one very important question. Second important point is all the today's solutions already have best practices built into the solution that helps me to straight away have a better time to market and go live faster. Third, if I rely on the internal knowledge and internal strength for documenting the processes, I may not be really relevant to the industry best practices because I might have digressed, and what is the guarantee that the people who are documenting the processes, they have the best of the best knowledge? So those are my questions which I would put forward.
Let's take the best practices and the readily availability things first. Whose best practices are we talking about? Number one, best practice is quite a relevant thing. A good cannot be an enemy of the best. Now, why? When we say best practice, we have put a stamp on something which has been followed and has been, basically, it may be the best, it will always be the best for us. Number one, I differ from this point because best is not a universal phenomenon. We say, some will say that agile is the best, others will say the waterfall model is best, but in practical, if you see, most of the time it's somewhere in between. So we tend to lie. And the very important point that you said is time to the market. It's important, yes, and it's relevant in the sense like we don't want to waste time onto that documentation. What we are doing, we want to reach to the destination, and we want to run that way instead of going in a cautious approach. We may reach to the destination in a lesser time. But the quantum of risk I see here is more. The reason being, it's not the time. Documentation is not what you said, it can have an elaborative and the people dedicated. No, it's not always there. We can have, in a nutshell, brainstorming sessions can have within the team members and the experts. We can pen down the things, this is do's and don'ts, how we want to do things, and then we go for automating the things. But when we go for automating the thing, this means one thing we are accepting in black and white, that what we need is crystal clear and we don't falter. Risk is here is more. Though we would be reaching faster to the destination, but the quantum of risk is more. But if we document, not setting up the whole department of the documentation and putting lots of energy into that, focusing onto the documentation and the first phase of our approach, putting little amount of effort, which would come out of good discussion and healthy discussion within the people who are working and taking up the suggestion, and then freezing our requirement against those points. When we go for the automation, what we are doing, we don't have any baseline against which we are doing the things. There are n number of heads which may say this is relevant today. Okay, we should go on to that. But down the line, that best practice, which used to be the best practice, may not remain the best practice. We have the documentation, there would be the reasons why we went for that approach, and then that can be referred later on. Yes, time to the market is important and cannot be negotiated with any of the things, but we need to consider the risk factor. Amount of money we would be spending on putting directly the things into the automation.
I have a couple of questions. questions here. I have some couple of points. The process what we define, I need to define the process considering the existing systems and tools in my organization. So definitely my tools would have a big impact on the way how my processes are operating in the organization at a work instruction level, not at a very top level, but at an operator level. I need to be aware of the solution first to really know how should I follow my process, or how should I perform my activities, right? If I have to create for example, if I have to create a case or trouble ticket or an incident as we call them into remedy, I would have a different way to do it. And if I have to link it to problems or if I have to do anything else, basically do some action. So I need to know the solution which I am working on. Then only I will be able to do well. Generically saying that yes, open this ticket is one at a broad level. But when I say process, I need to go a little beyond and give an operator level instruction. Unless I am clear with my solution, I may not be able to give that operational level instruction. Work instruction I am talking about may not be directly processed, but at a work instruction level. That is one great challenge. If I do the documentation first, I will anyway have to rewrite that documentation if my solution is not ready. One. Second important point I have is if I document and if I have realized that whatever I have documented, now that is not very relevant because the solution which I am trying to adopt doesn't give me all the features to customize it to exact way you have defined the process, and it happens invariably. You are not able to get 100% accurate things done into the solution as you have documented because it follows certain industry practices which is good for the industry. For example, as an internal in-house process, I may end up bridging some of the compliance and regulatory aspects if I am not aware of those practices, industry practices, and I have documented them. But now, when I have automated those, later on I would realize that I ignored those compliance practices or those industry practices which are very, very relevant. For example, if I have US company, SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley compliance is something which I have to worry about. I have to worry about governance controls. I have to worry about GRC norms. And while designing the process, if I have ignored them, scoping of the project itself will go for toss. I have built the application based on documentation, or I have customized the solution based on documentation, but later on I realized that there was a GRC requirement which I probably did not take into consideration. So again, I ended up wasting the time. So the amount of rework that is the risk that you are talking of without the documentation exists in both the cases, with documentation, without documentation. So that argument doesn't really stand here. What is more important is, which ways, unless I put something into practice, I will not know exactly do I require a change and how much change do I require, and change is a part of life. Rather than focusing on documentation, I would say we should come up with the better ways of managing changes more effectively and faster into the solution, rather than spend time and energy and waste energy into documentation. Anyway, which ways I will have to change it. Okay. So I would rather say I will document, have a best practices to follow the changes effectively, have a right kind of enterprise architecture by scoping and having everything in mind. That scope is good enough for me rather than spending a lot of time and energy into documentation. With any which ways I will have to do a rework. So I focus on energy in managing the changes rather than doing the documentation.
Okay. Couple of important things that I would like to put here. Once we start something, we are not sure where we land in the end, number one. Even in automating the things, we are not sure that we would be landing into the utopic world of the processes. Whatever we would have would be the end would be free without much arguments by different stakeholders. What I am saying is, documentation is something which can be done in which requires lesser investment of time. If you are going to do an elaborate documentation, Again, how elaborate it would be. You can put up a couple of resources, right, sitting day and night, couple of experts, then reviewing and then putting up their inputs, then the changes. That is one way of looking into how we want to document the thing. What the best would be, putting up the requirements, putting up the things, the processes in bullet points. These are the things, these may be existing in the industry best practices, or these may be, some may be relevant and specific to our kind of projects. Putting them in an order and then going for automation. How would it help? And just coming to your point, like where you said we could be wasting lots of time in concentrating on the documentation. That depends on elaborative nature of the document. That is not required here.